breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, my friendly Bo. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by a good friend of ours and William Boor, who does such great work over at Action Network. We're going to be chatting with him about just how wild this playoff picture is right now. We're going to be chatting with him about the Arizona Diamondbacks and the fact that they might actually have prospects to be able to make the playoffs at this point. A lot of us are in disbelief over that, but we're going to be chatting about that, and then we're going to be diving into the games that we've got coming up on this Friday. In the final segment, get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. EdgeBoost is the first ever account that is built for bettors. They make sure that 100% of gambling transactions do get approved over at edgeboost.bet. Put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That's going to get you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. When you use EdgeBoost, you get cash rewards as well, and they make sure that 100% of your gambling transactions do get approved. So doing a rock solid job there. And what else is rock solid is taking a look at everything that we saw in baseball on Thursday. Let's recap it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
8 out of the first 9 games in Major League Baseball did go under the total as the Brewers, they just continue to roll and they get the job done against the Los Angeles Angels. This by a count of 5-2 as for the Brewers, they were able to do a nice job of getting to the bullpen after Yusei Kikuchi. I say he gave a nice start, 2 runs allowed and 5 2/3 innings. Jose Fermin and out of the bullpen scoreless, and then Luis Garcia gives up 3 runs in his inning. Work Kenley Jansen a scoreless inning, and for the Brewer crew, Quinn Priester 10 punch-outs, and he's not necessarily a strikeout guy. Does give up a home run to Luis Rengifo, 9th home run season, but Phil 5 2/3 innings, giving up those 2 runs. Aaron Ashby 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Edmund Uribe and Jared Koenig, they were both able to give you a scoreless inning. For the Mets, things have been no good, very bad, and terrible recently, but they got a win on Thursday against the San Diego Padres. This by a count of 6-1 as the regression for Randy Vasquez happened. 4 runs allowed in 2 1/3 innings, including a home run surrendered. Going deep was one Mr. Pete Alonso, 37th home run season. Then Brandon Nimmo, he goes for his 24th home run season, that coming off of Wandy Peralta. From there, the bullpen was pretty solid. Kyle Hart lends a scoreless inning. Yuki Matsui was able to fill one as well. Ron Marinaccio does give up a run in an inning, and Brad Lee Rodriguez, he comes in for a scoreless inning for the Mets. Jonah Tong, much better start here. 8 punch-outs, 1 unearned run allowed in 5 innings. That was off of his own error, so pretty much on him, but still pretty rock solid. And then from there, Tyler Rogers, Brooks Raley, Gregory Soto, Edwin Diaz, they're all able to end a scoreless inning. Be able to end plenty of scoreless innings were the Cleveland Guardians as they take down the Detroit Tigers, this by a count of 3-1. And don't look now, but the Cleveland Guardians are only 3.5 games out of the AL Central, and they've got a series coming up in a week or so. Pair of home runs here for Cleveland. Jose Ramirez, 29th home run season, and John Kenzie Noel, big Christmas, his 5th home run in the campaign. Noel goes deep off of Drake Skubal. He was banged up in his last start. He was dealing with a side issue. Appeared to have no ill effects here. He gives up that home run, but that's the lone run that he allows in 6 innings. From there, Troy Melton gives up 2 runs in 1 2/3 innings, including that home run to Ramirez. Tyler Holton, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless, and for Tanner Bybee, great start. 1 run allowed over the course of 6 innings. Tim Aaron, Kobe Allard, and Hunter Gaddis, they're all able to turn a scoreless inning. Be able to turn a lot of scoreless innings were the Cincinnati Reds. They were on to a 1-0 win over the Chicago Cubs. Hunter Green, complete game, 1 hitter, 9 punch-outs, 109 pitches. He was great. Colin Ray, tough luck loser, 11 strikeouts, 1 run allowed in 7 innings. And Michael Soroka, he goes for a scoreless inning as for the Cincinnati Reds, they went 1 of 6 with men in scoring position, and that was enough to be able to get the job done. And also being able to get the job done, how about the Tampa Bay Rays? 4-0. They shut out a Blue Jays team that leads the American League in run scoring ever since the All-Star break. For the Blue Jays, they're also your top over team in all of baseball thus far this season. 83 overs, 64 unders, and 6 pushes. But on this day, they had absolutely nothing doing as the Wizard of Oz, Shane Baz, who has had a pretty miserable season thus far, 5 scoreless innings out of him. Griffin Jacks, along with Kevin Kelly, Garrett Clevenger, Brian Baker, all then to scoreless inning. Chris Bassett, take it out the line and sinker here. 3 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings. You had Braden Fisher give you 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Anthony Dominguez, a a scoreless inning, but Eric Lauer is now coming out of the bullpen. He does allow a solo home run in 1 1/3 innings. Carson Williams was able to go deep in this one, home run number 4 of the campaign. Also getting back to the Cincinnati Reds, they are your top under team in all baseball, and they added to that on Thursday for the Reds. Now 60% of their games have gone under the total, 87 unders, 58 overs, and 8 pushes. And another great under team has been the Baltimore Orioles, third best to the under in all of baseball, and they helped you out with this one. They didn't score a single run against the New York Yankees. 7-0 the final as Max Fried, 7 scoreless innings, 13 punch-outs. From there, Paul Blackburn walks the plank for 2 scoreless innings, and for Baltimore, Cade Povich, not the world's worst start. It wasn't great. He walked 4, gave up 3 runs over the course of 5 innings. From there, you had Yennier Cano, don't you know, he gave you a scoreless inning. Cade Stout, a scoreless inning, but Jason McDermott, he comes in for a third of an inning. He gives up 4 runs, all of which were earned, and then he had to have Joey Castillo lend 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless to be able to bail him out. Also being able to get bailed out was the fact that the Miami Marlins did not get a great start out of Sandy Alcantara, but still got him the win. 9-7, the Marlins able to get the job done. Well, 3 runs allowed at Coors Field. Sanders is actually rock solid. Valentin Beloso, he was a bozo. He gave up a pair of home runs, 4 runs in total in 2/3 of an inning, and Alcantara gave up 2 home runs in his 6 2/3 innings. Tyler Phillips, 1 1/3 innings, scoreless. Calvin Fauché, and out of the bullpen scoreless, and quartet of home runs in this one for the Rockies. Mickey Moniak, 24th home run of the season. It was home runs number 2 and 3 for Blaine Krim, so congratulations to Mr. Krim. And then you were able to get home run number 4 of the campaign for one Yanquiel Fernandez. And on the Marlins side of things, they were able to get a trio of bombs. Leo Mix, his 6th home run season. Alberto Hernandez, his 9th. And Otto Lopez, home run number 15 of the campaign, as Tanner Gordon gave up 2 of those home runs. Hernandez got his off of Ryan Rolson, who gives up 2 runs in his inning of work. Anthony Molina gives up 2 runs in 2 innings, and Gordon, not the world's worst start, but still not great. 4 runs, 3 which were given up in his 6 innings of work, and both of these bullpens were not great to be able to get you a very rare over on this day. And when it comes to Boston Red Sox, they fall to the Athletics just by a count of 5-3 as JT Ginn Juice, he got you all juiced up. 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings, does give up a home run as it was number 5 of the campaign for David Hamilton, and then Trevor Story, 25th home run of the season. That comes off of Hogan Harris, who gives up that home run in his 2 innings of work. Michael Kelly, a scoreless inning, and Brian Bayo, he gives up 4 runs, 3 of which were earned over the course of 4 innings. He does allow a home run to Brent Rooker, 30th home run of the season. From there, Peyton Tolley in long relief, 1 unearned run given up in 3 innings, and Greg Weiser, he was able to turn 2 scoreless innings of his own. The Seattle Mariners were able to turn a lot of scoreless innings of their own. How about a 2-0 win over the Kansas City Royals? For the Royals, Stephen Kolek did his part. He gives up 2 runs, 1 of which was earned, given up in 7 1/3 innings, hurt by a Michael Massey fielding error. Daniel Lynch from there, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Taylor Clark, 8 scoreless inning, and Luis Castillo, he was just a little bit better on the other side. 6 scoreless innings. Edward Bizardo, Gabe Spire, Andres Munoz, they're all able to turn a scoreless inning. And then to close up shop, the LA Dodgers, they do persevere over the San Francisco Giants by a count of 2-1. Giants only get 1 hit in this game, despite the fact that they left 9 men on base, because Yoshinobu Yamamoto, 5 1/3 innings, he allows 1 hit, but gives up 6 walks. From there, Jack Dreyer, pair of outs out the bullpen scoreless. Michael Kopech gives up a run in a 1/3 of an inning as he walked a pair, as that run was scored without there being a single hit by the San Francisco Giants. Rafael Devers was walked in, and Blake Trinan, he got a pair of outs out the bullpen scoreless. Before that, though, he gave up a pair of walks himself. Anthony Banda, Alex Vesia, both lend a scoreless inning, and for Logan Webb, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned, allowed in 7 innings. That gets him the loss, as there's an error out there by Patrick Bailey and Joey Lucchesi, scoreless inning of his own. And if you're looking trend-wise at what we're getting in Major League Baseball on Thursday, this was prior to the Dodgers and Giants game going final. You have seen in the big leagues this year about 51.1% of games going under the total, 1,118 unders to 1,072 overs, with favorites hitting on the money line right around about 56.6%, 1,281 and 982. Meanwhile, if you look at the last 3 days, favorites have had a little bit of a tougher run of things, 218 and 176 on the money line, with the over hitting at about 51%, 198 overs to 186 unders. Meanwhile, if you take a look at the last 7 days in Major League Baseball, favorites are cleaning up 58 and 35 on the money line, with the under hitting at only about 46.2%, 49 overs to 42 unders. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're all getting trend-wise. Coming next, how about if we chat about the games that we've got for Friday and this murky playoff picture with William Boor of Action Network here on the Baseball Betting Show. Myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Casey Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great by Always great to be joined by this man as William Boor. He does such a tremendous job over at Action Network, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. I know that he is hard at work over at Action Network. I know that he's taking a look at college football, baseball, and so much more. And you're able to catch him on the old Twitter /X at the letter W. His last name Boor, Boor. And William, always great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Of course, Greg. Always a pleasure to hop on, talk baseball, talk betting with you. And we've got some fun ones here. We've got some close races to finish up these final 10 days of the season.
Yes, we certainly do. And how do you just take a look at the National League wildcard picture with the Mets just tripping all over themselves? They were able to get back online on Thursday, but man, it has been an almighty struggle for them. And all of a sudden, teams like the Arizona Diamondbacks and the San Francisco Giants that were sellers at the trade deadline have some life in this playoff picture.
Yeah, the NL wildcard race is insane because the Mets have pooped their pants over the past 6 weeks. I don't understand what happened. I mean, I've watched it, but yeah, if you told me the Diamondbacks, I had a future on them to make the playoffs. I had over, I think, 84 wins. It all seemed dead in July, and now all of a sudden I'm looking up the Diamondbacks score every day, and I'm like, wait a minute, where's that ticket? I hope I didn't rip it. Like, this NL wildcard race is fascinating. We're running out of time. I kind of still think the Mets hold on, but they've made this way closer than it should have been, and I'm definitely, if they do hold on, you're definitely fading them in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And just how do you size up a Mets team that it feels like the offense has been able to get online? Like, guys like Mark Vientos and company have been hitting much better at the bottom of the lineup, but I mean, this pitching in general, Jonah Tong did give a good start on Thursday, but man, it has been so bad, and Ryan Helsley has been an absolutely awful acquisition for them.
Yeah, I don't know what you do, because when you go out and you acquire someone like Helsley, like, there weren't a ton of people criticizing that deal. They were aggressive. They did what you're supposed to do. They brought in good players over the offseason. They got off to a really fast start. They, I think, had like the best pitching staff in baseball in the first month, 6 weeks of the season. They did everything right. And then all of a sudden, I feel like the expected metrics and regression has hit every single player all at once. And it's just such a bizarre case, because you look at the names in the lineup, you look at the names in the bullpen, and they're not bad baseball players at all. Like, there's star power on this team. Francisco Lindor is a good player. Juan Soto is a good player. Pete Alonso is a good player. We mentioned Helsley. Like, they have names. They have people who should be performing, and it's just not clicking, and it's just not clicking at the worst possible time.
Yeah, it certainly has been so interesting to take a look at what we've been getting out of the New York Mets, as, man, it has not been tremendous for them. And for the New York Mets, they finally get something to go their way, as they're going to be facing off against the Washington Nationals at home on Friday, with it being Brandon Sproat, one of their young guns, going up against Andrew Alvarez. Right now, that money line is right around about minus 205 with a total of 8.5. Any way to be able to play this? Because Alvarez has actually been good in his first 3 starts for the Washington Nationals. I know you spent some time over at MLB Pipeline, so you know a little bit about some of these young guns that are going to be going in this game, but I don't think that what Alvarez has done is necessarily sustainable.
I don't think it's sustainable, but we just need to sustain through Friday. We don't need it to be long term here. I think you've got a Mets team that's struggling, and if you're getting a price north of 200 to fade a team that's been bad, I kind of like just taking a shot on that. I mean, the Mets, they're the better team. They should be favored. I get all that. But with the way the momentum's going, I kind of like just taking a plus 220, a plus 215, and just rolling the dice.
Yeah, with the Washington Nationals, they've also been creating many more runs when they've been away from home rather than at home as well, which I find to be very intriguing. CJ Abrams, 14 out of his 17 home runs have come away from home as far this season. So not quite sure what's happening there, but I do know what's happening here. The Reds, they're clinging on for dear life in this wild card race, which, because of the Mets, they are still alive, even though they've been up and down. They're right now slim home underdogs against the Chicago Cubs, with it being Shota Imanaga against Nick Lodolo. Want to get your thoughts here, because Imanaga just appears to be very due for aggression. Sub 335 ERA, but not a lot of strikeouts, giving up quite a few home runs, and I like what I've seen from Nick Lodolo all throughout the season, even with this recent rough patch.
Yeah, I like the Reds in this spot. Imanaga, good, not great. He hasn't been as good as he was in years past. The other thing is he pitches to a lot of fly balls, has home run trouble, so I like backing him on the road as opposed to a Wrigley. However, the road theory doesn't necessarily help when you're playing in Cincinnati as well. It's kind of the same disaster situation for him. So I wouldn't be shocked if he gets tagged for a couple home runs tomorrow, which obviously is then going to push you towards Cincinnati and back in the Reds.
Yep, and they call it Great American Small Park for a reason, so always want to be mindful of that, as we do have William Boor of Action Network joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, and then I think that this one is a big one. How about the Mariners and the Astros, as they are neck and neck out there in that American League West picture, and for the Astros, Hunter Brown is about a minus 115 favorite at home against Brian Wu, total of 7 and 7.5. Want to get your thoughts here, because the Astros have been flailing a little bit down the stretch, but they've got so many veterans that have been in the ALCS time and time again. And for the Seattle Mariners, it feels like we've done this dance with them before, where they're right on the cut line of the either division or just being able to make the playoffs in general, and they always make things very, very intriguing here in the late month of September.
Yeah, I got to figure out how I'm going to play this, because I have a Mariners to make the playoffs ticket, but I also have an Astros AL West ticket, so I'm kind of in a weird spot with this, so I got to go do some math tonight. But I like Seattle. I'm probably going to bet the series, maybe, as opposed to an individual game here. But I mean, Seattle 9-1 in their past 10. I think they're 10-1 in their past 11. They're just playing really well. And the thing is, I know these teams are tied in the standings. You mentioned Houston's experience, but I don't know how much you want to put into like run differential or expected win-loss. But when you kind of look into some of those bigger numbers, the Mariners, based on expected win-loss, should be 3 games ahead of the Astros. If you look at run differential, there are 30 runs up on the Astros. I think the Mariners have played better than Houston over the course of the year. I know the record is what it is and they're the same, but if you're trying to look for small edges and stuff, I do like Seattle in this spot for sure.
Yep, and with the Seattle Mariners, it's just so intriguing to be looking at them, because they are a little bit all or nothing with their lineup, and it's a team that I almost think that they are a team that I think can be able to really ascend if they play on the road, just because when you got the likes of Cal Raleigh and Eugenio Suarez trying to be able to play playoff games in Seattle in October, the ball's not going to be flying so much. Meanwhile, if they're playing in like an indoor stadium, if they're playing down south, I feel like they've got better propensity to be able to get those home runs that they need.
That's true. They're a lineup that can get really hot and can put, 8 runs up in a hurry. And it's a ballpark like Houston. If they wind up going to Toronto, per se, all of a sudden, like you said, you hit some balls in the gap on some turf, your small ballparks, indoors, something like that. They hit back-to-back home runs. They hit 3 home runs in 4 innings. They could get dangerous really fast.
Yes, they certainly can. And it's going to be a lot of fun to check out what they're going to be doing here overall, as we do have just so much in this baseball slate for Friday that is of intrigue, including the Giants, who may find themselves back in the playoff picture going against the Dodgers. And we just saw this series last week. Both teams had their starting pitchers just get piñated all throughout the series, so we'll see if that's going to be the same year. Robbie Ray against Clayton Kershaw with the Dodgers, right around about a minus 160 and a total of 8.5. Need to get your thoughts here, because prior to that series against the Dodgers, the Giants were playing some great baseball. They got cooled off a little bit there, and for the Dodgers, having Max Muncy back has just meant a world of difference to them.
The Dodgers aren't losing Clayton Kershaw's final start at Dodger Stadium. That's not obviously the most scientific handicap in the world. Additionally, they've also, won 7 of their past 10. You mentioned Muncy coming back. They're hitting the ball well. I just think they're hitting the ball well at home. Kershaw's last start, like that's going to be, especially the fact that it's against the Giants, that's going to be a playoff atmosphere. Like that stadium's going to be rocking tomorrow night. I just think this is a Dodger spot all the way.
It's so intriguing to take a look at these Clayton Kershaw starts, because he's had so many monikers that he's been able to get through, like the strikeout record. I know that he was taking a look at that as well. So there's a lot of fun out there in Dodger Stadium. And I know that it's not necessarily the most scientific handicap, but I do like that rationale. I do like that reasoning as well. So well put by you. And this one I think is going to be interesting as well, because right now I'm finding the Tigers at a minus 120 at home against the Braves. Charlie Morton has not been great for the Tigers, but Bryce Elder has looked elderly all season long for the Braves, albeit he's looked a little bit better, but it just feels like a really nice short number on a Tigers team that, yeah, they've been able to coast quite a bit because they've got the division pretty much sewn up, but at the same time, I just cannot back Bryce Elder at right around about even money.
Do they have the division sewn up? Cleveland's kind of creeping up here. I mean, they got a 3.5 game lead, but in a couple weeks they have a 3 game series against the Guardians. So I think they've coasted, but I think they might need to look in the rearview mirror and they might have to, hit the gas a little bit more, which kind of makes me feel even better about the Tigers in this spot. I'm with you on not backing Elder, and then I'm also like, hey, if they realize that there's a sense of urgency, they might have to turn it up as well. I mean, 3-7 in their past 10. The Tigers got to get going here.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, man, Bryce Elder being at a relative even money underdog, that's just something that I can't back. I've been evading him all season long, and that's something that I'm going to continue to do. And I'm so glad that you mentioned Cleveland because they are a slim underdog against the Minnesota Twins. Parker Misick is a guy that I really liked over at Florida State. He's been rock solid in his first few starts. Pablo Lopez, he's come off the injury list. He's looked rock solid. Total is 8, and right around about -120 to -125 is the money line of the Twins. Want to get your thoughts here because I love Lopez. I don't love the guys around him, but I also love the fact that even though the Cleveland Guardians have been so hot recently, their offense has been non-existent, so I actually look at that 8 under.
Yeah, I'm with you. To me, I don't want the Twins on this. The way Cleveland's been playing lately, I mean, Messick 2 runs, 12 innings in his past 2 starts. I either want the Guardians or the under, or I guess both if you want to play both. But I mean, Cleveland's won 7 straight. Messick's throwing well, but you're right. They haven't. I'm not really worried about them putting up 8 runs. So if Messick, gives up 1 or 2 to the Twins and, they score 3 or 4, I think we're probably in good shape there.
Yep, I'm right there with you, and that race is so intriguing. And I know that we talked a little bit about the AL West race. Is there any team out there in the American League, though, that you feel like might separate and might be able to provide a little bit of bang for your buck, whether that be betting them game to game the next few weeks or perhaps in the futures market? Because we've talked about this on the podcast a lot, and I think that's worth bringing up. Man, the American League is just such a mess right now that it's not even funny. And you mentioned it with the Tigers. They don't have their division sewn up quite yet because all of a sudden the Cleveland Guardians have won 9 out of their last 10 games, which I don't know if that's necessarily sustainable, but they're like the lone team in the American League right now that it feels like is playing good baseball.
Yeah, I mean, I think game to game, the Guardians, if you want to maybe, I didn't look this up. If you want to look at what their AL Central odds are, it's probably a long shot and deservedly so. But, they're 9-1 in their past 10. The Tigers are 3-7 in the past 10. If you get it at a really juicy price, it could be a kind of fun 10-day sweat there. If you're looking for bigger futures, I think, or more long term, I think kind of what we were talking about earlier, I really like the Mariners depending on the way the bracket falls. I think that could be a team that's really interesting and could get really hot fast. I also don't mind to look at the Red Sox as well. A team that's got a plus 100 run differential, is playing a little bit better over the past 2 weeks and could sneak in here.
Yep, absolutely. And I do think that there's a lot of fun to be had on this card for Friday as we've got so much intrigue with regards to these races. We've got so many just good matchups in general. Anything else that you're going to be taking a look at on Friday, whether that be a team that you're going to be looking to bet or just a game in general that you're intrigued to see?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Mariners Astros is the obvious headliner, as well as the Kershaw farewell, final start, whatever you want to call that. And then I think the other thing that I'm going to keep my eye on is, because of that in a wild card, is I want to see what the Mets do. And then depending on how they do every day, it's kind of watching the Mets and the Diamondbacks in tandem, and seeing how that matters. Also, just selfishly, I'm going to the Diamondbacks game on Sunday, so I want to see if they're within like a half game or something and make sure that game means a little bit more.
Yep, absolutely, and that is going to be a lot of fun with the Arizona Diamondbacks. They could be like the Tigers last year, where the Tigers, they sold at the deadline. Somehow, some way, they made the playoffs. The Giants and the Diamondbacks are still alive to be able to do just that, and we're always in great shape whenever you're on the podcast. William, you do such a great job over at Action Network, so let the good people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people are able to follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me again. You can follow me on Twitter at WBOR, WBOOR. If you just want my betting picks, I'm on the Action Network app at @WilliamBoor_, all one word. Be sure to download the app, visit our website. We have stuff for all the baseball games for the playoff race, WNBA playoffs right now, obviously NFL, college football, all sorts of good stuff to hopefully help make you some money, which is good news for everyone.
Absolutely, and William, he does such a tremendous job over at Action Network on so many different fronts, and every single time he joins me, lends such great insight. So, big thanks to William for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast, and coming next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here, lovely Las Vegas, for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always a pleasure to be joined by William Boor. Does such great work over at Action Network. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights. He did so once again today, so a big thanks to William for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81, and we're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games. Any interleague games, those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So, how about if we do start things off with 901, 902 on the card? The Cubs are on the road. They're facing off against the Cincinnati Reds. And yes, we're on to Cincinnati, who's on to Nick Lodolo getting the start for them. And Shota Imanaga goes for the Cubs. Total on this game is 9. The under is minus 115. Over is minus 105, with the Cubs going to be getting them at a minus 124, and a plus 106 is that number on Cincinnati. And when it comes to the Reds, I did set them as a favorite here, minus 111. I'm going to be willing to back them on the money line. For Shota Imanaga, he just has not been able to get enough strikeouts and has been giving up a little bit too much hard contact for my liking. Imanaga, overall for the season, has a 3.29 ERA, but that fielding independent is a 4.57. He's been getting only 7.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, albeit he's only allowing 1.5 walks per 9 innings, but the 1.7 home runs per 9 innings and haven't given up at least 3 runs in each out of his last 4 starts, and he has allowed a whopping 7 home runs over the course of his last 4 starts. Yeah, that is just rough to say the least, and with Lodolo, it's been a case where he's just been really good in terms of controlling the walks, unlike the early part of his career. For Lodolo, he's actually experiencing a career low in strikeouts. He's only been able to get 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings this year, but he's dropped the walks to 1.6 walks per 9 innings, 3.30 ERA, fielding dependent more around about a 3.86. Has had a few struggles recently, 4+ runs allowed in 2 out of his last 3 starts, but those were road starts, and he is a guy that I think is going to be able to bounce back from that. You take a look at the Reds lineup, and there's just nothing really impressive about it, but there's nothing really awful about it. It's just a bunch of guys that are sort of moving the line. They don't have a single guy that has been able to give you over 20 home runs, as De La Cruz has been stuck on 19 home runs for seemingly an eon, but you've got all these guys in the lineup that are in that neighborhood. We're going to call it about a 254 if you can include Cabrian Hayes in a Reds uniform and a Reds uniform only, to a 267 with Gavin Lux, Ellie De La Cruz, TJ Friedel, Austin Hayes being there, and Navoli Marte has been able to about a 275 with 13 home runs. And it's a small sample size, but Sal Stewart, 4 home runs in his first 42 at-bats. He's been delivering some good production for this team. Whenever they've been able to get Miguel Andujar out there, he's been rock solid as well. Has dealt with a few injuries since he's joined the team, but now he's firing on all cylinders for the Reds. It's a neither here nor there bullpen. You've had Tony Santini and Emilio Pagan both be able to give you a sub 350 ERA, and you've had Scott Barlow, Graham Ashcraft. These guys have a little bit of issue. For Pagan, he does give up a few more home runs than I would personally like, but for the Chicago Cubs, it's been a case where they've had to mix and match in their bullpen as well, because now they're dealing with an injury to Daniel Palencia. That puts them a little bit behind the 8 ball. They've still been able to get a lot of production out of the likes of Andrew Kittredge ever since he's come on over from the Orioles. Brian Keller, Caleb Theobar, Taylor Rogers, got a bunch of guys who have been able to supply a sub 325 ERA. Drew Pomeranz as well, but I do think that for the Reds, they do a nice job of getting to Imanaga and being able to get the job done. I did set my total at an 8.8, so at the 9, I like the under and feel like the Reds should be the favorite, so I took them on the money line. 903, 904 on the card. The Washington Nationals are on the road against the New York Mets as Brandon Sproat is on the bump for the Mets, and Andrew Alvarez goes for Washington. 8.5 is the total. Under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. Meanwhile, between minus 205 to minus 220 is that number on the Mets, and between plus 165 to plus 175 is was at number on Washington. With the Washington Nationals, I would have needed at least a plus 224 to be able to take a shot on the money line. And right now with the Mets, that run line price is a plus 105. Sign me up there. First Bro, he was a very highly touted prospect, and he had okay numbers at the minor league level. I wouldn't necessarily call them amazing, but first few starts here at the big league level, he's been solid. He's won a combined 12 innings in 2 starts. He actually took the loss in one of these starts, but a combined 3 runs allowed, and he's been able to do a nice job in terms of just keeping the ball in the yard, not giving up a lot of hard contact in those first 2 starts when he was down at the minor league level. The command was relatively solid. He's been giving up 3 walks per 9 innings since coming up to the big league level, so liking what I'm seeing there. You've got a Nationals team that has actually been much better with their run production away from home rather than at home. At home, they're averaging just under 4 runs per contest. Away from home, they've been averaging closer to about 4.6 runs per contest. C.J. Abrams being a main reason why he's given the team 17 home runs, hitting about a 260 this year, but 14 of those home runs have come away from home. Josh Bell, since the beginning of the month of July, has been able to heat up for this team. He's been able to hit about a 260 in that time span. He's up to 20 home runs this season. And James Wood, overall for the season, has 27 home runs, about a 350 on base, but that said, ever since Home Run Derby has really fallen off with regards to that home run production. You've had Dalen Lyles, a young guy, step up hitting about a 285, but he's really the lone of the young bucks that has really been able to give you much of anything, as you got the likes of Dylan Cruz, Andres Shapiro, Robert Hassel, Brady House, that are all give you an on-base percentage as well less than a 300 without necessarily a lot of power. And for the Nationals, they continue to be dead last in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Just don't have really any reliability outside of PJ Poulin, who's actually been really good for this team. We'll give him a little bit of credit, but you got the likes of Connor Pilkington, Jackson Rutledge, Sinkuski Ogasara, Orlando Rebalta, Edward Salazar, whenever he's been out there, Soren Lau, all these guys posting up over a 470 ERA. And for the Mets, their bullpen has been an issue as well. Ever since the trade deadline, they have been a bottom 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA because they have not gotten bang for their buck. Out of Ryan Helsley is posting up since getting to New York well above a 70 ERA. Gregory Soto has been a little bit of a disaster as well, but so Brooks Raley being able to give you a sub 325 ERA. You've had Edwin Diaz be rock solid as a closer for this team. You've been able to get a few good innings as well out of some of the mix and match guys, like whenever you've had Tyler Rogers out there, he's been solid, so it is a circumstance where I do think that for the Mets, they're going to be just fine, especially going up against a guy in Andrew Alvarez that he's had a few nice starts ever since coming up to the big league level, but I'm not necessarily overly bullish on him. He is in his 3 starts and 15 and 2/3 innings, only allowed 2 runs, so we'll give a little bit of credit there, but 6.3 strikeouts at 3.4 walks per 9 innings, a fielding dependent of a 372. That does have me concerned, especially going up against a Mets lineup that all of a sudden they've been able to put it together. The likes of Mark Vientos and Brett Beatty at the bottom are now hitting above a 240 with 15 plus home runs. Jeff McNeil's giving you about a 340 on base. You've had a quartet of guys with at least 24 home runs at the top, and Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto, Pete Alonso with Soto. He's up to 41 bombs, and he's up to a 394 on base. Alonso, 37 home runs. So I do think that the Mets go out there and they take it to Alvarez and company. I did set my total here at an 8.4 with the 8.5. I'm going to be in on the under, and I do like that Mets run line. 905, 906 on the card. The Milwaukee Brewers are on the road against the St. Louis Cardinals. Sonny Gray is on the bump for the Cards, and Jacob Mizorowski, the Miz Kid, goes for the Brewers. Brewers are between minus 118 to minus 120 favorites, even money to plus 105. That number on St. Louis, 7.5 is the total. Over is minus 120, under is even. Did set the Cardinals at a minus 109 on the money line. I'm going to be willing to lay it. With regards to Sonny Gray, it's been a very rough second half of the season. He's posting up a 6.09 ERA and over 1.9 home runs per 9 innings ever since the All-Star break across 11 starts, but has been able to do a much better job at home. And if you look at the overall numbers this year, 443 ERA, 10 strikeouts, and 1.2 home runs allowed per 9 innings. His fielding dependency, 340. That's more than a full point lower than that 443 ERA, and he has been at his best when he's been in St. Louis. 404 home ERA, 511 ERA when he is on the road, and he's given up about 1.1 home runs per 9 innings when he has been at home. And for Mizorowski, he has given up 3+ runs in now 5 out of his 6 starts since coming off the injury list, an ERA above a 5 ever since he has returned, as the strikeout stuff is still there. He's been able to supply over 12 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 3.8 walks per 9 innings is a little bit concerning. He's been giving up some hard contact as well, 4 home runs allowed in his last 4 starts. Good news is, gets to go up against a Cardinals team that is in the bottom 2 in the National League in terms of run creation ever since the All-Star break, as you've had Wilson Contreras supply the team with 20 home runs. He's been able to do a very rock-solid job, but the young guys just have not been able to come along for the ride for this team, as you do have a lot of guys that are hitting below a 230 on this roster. Victor Scott, Pedro Baez, Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman, Nathan Church. These guys have just not given you too much, and Gorman has given you 14 home runs, but I mean, really past that, not a ton of hard contact being hit by these guys. Ivan Herrera, 16 home runs, about a 370 on base, and they do get back Brendan Donovan, who's hitting a 280. What has been a strength for the Cardinals, though, has been this bullpen. They have been a top 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA, and got rid of Ryan Elsley at just the right time, as likes of Jojo Romero, Riley O'Brien, throw in there Kyle Leahy, guys like this, being able to fly a sub 335 ERA really has been very rock solid for them. And then on the other end for the Milwaukee Brewers, they're starting to get a little bit healthier with the bullpen. They've had Grant Anderson come off the injured list along with Nick Mears. Both of these guys have been able to give you sub 350 ERA, still dealing with the injury to Trevor McGill, so that's been a little bit costly for this team. But regardless, you still have the likes of an Abner Uribe, Aaron Ashby, who have been able to fly a sub 3 ERA and are able to give you multiple innings. Jared Koenig has been solid as well. And for the Brewers, this team is averaging about 5.8 runs per game ever since the All-Star break. That is number 1 in all of baseball. They've been doing it with just being able to get on base. You've got Christian Yelich supplying 29 home runs, 345 on base. Lone guy on the roster that is above 20 home runs this season, as they're just doing it by getting guys on base and moving the line. Isaac Collins in a Brewers uniform and a Brewers uniform only. Andrew Vaughn, Yelich, I mentioned before, Bryce Terang, Sal Frelick, William Contreras. All these guys giving you at least a 345 on base. And then Andrew Stereo has been able to give you a 330 on base. Jackson Trio, not the world's greatest on base, but 278 average, 20 home runs. He's been rock solid as well. And I do think that the Brewers are going to be able to do a solid job getting to Sonny Gray, but at the same time, too, the way that Jacob Mizorowski has been pitching, I do think that the Cardinals get to him as well. So did some I told it at 8.4. You have the 7.5. I do like the over, and I do like the Cardinals at plus money on the money line. 907-908 on the card. The Phillies are on the road against the Orioles and the Diamondbacks. Ryan Elsing goes for the Snakes. Taiwo Walker for the Phils. The Phillies are a very small underdog here, between even money to plus 105. Minus 118 to minus 125, that number on Arizona. And total is between 9 and 9.5. On the 9, the over is minus 120, the under is even. On the 9.5, under is minus 115 to minus 120. Over is between even and minus 105. And for the Phillies, I made them the very slim minus 106 favorite. I'm going to be willing to roll with them. I know that they're dealing with some injuries in the lineup, as they're dealing with Trey Turner, Alec Boehm, deal with ailments, but Kyle Schwarber, 53 home runs, over at 365 on base. You've had Bryce Harper really heat up. He's over 24 bombs. He's been able to give you about a 350 on base, and some of these mix and match guys like Otto Kemp have been able to come up solid for this team. They do have to deal with the injury now to Armando Sosa as well, so they are really starting to pile up for the Phillies, and do want to be cautious of the fact that this is a lineup that is much different when they're at home rather than away from home. When the Phillies are at home, they are number 2 in the big leagues with nearly 5.5 runs per game. This falls to about 4.3 runs per game away from home, but still relatively solid lineup. Nick Castellanos has had his ups and downs, but he's been able to give you 16 home runs and a 250 thus far this season, and the Phillies have straightened out their act with regards to bullpen. Jose Alvarado has actually not been what they were hoping for coming off the suspended list, but like so Orion Kerkering, Matt Strom, Tanner Banks, these have been guys who have been able to give you a sub 320 ERA, and then Yohan Duran has been one of the best closers in all of baseball. Flip side, you've got yourself a Arizona Diamondbacks bullpen that just has not been great, to say the least. Andrew Saalfrank has been. Andrew Saalfrank giving you a sub 2 ERA since coming off the injury list, but man, you got a lot of other guys that have been shaky, to say the least, as they've been dealing with quite a few injuries, but I mean, whenever he's been out there, Ryan Thompson, Juan Murillo, Taylor Rashi, Kyle Bacchus, Anthony DeSclafani, Jake Woodford, so many guys they're posting up an ERA well above a 4, though. For the Diamondbacks, even without Eugenio Suarez, along with Josh Naylor, they've been a top 8 team with regards to runs per game. Corbin Carroll, 30 bombs, he's been able to give about a 340 on base, hitting a 260. Geraldo Perdomo hitting a 290, he's been able to supply 19 home runs. Ketel Marte has slowed down with the deep ball, 25 home runs, but he's been stuck there for quite a while, but has still give you a 370 on base. Getting back Gabriel Moreno with his 350 on base has been solid, and seeing with sellers at the trade deadline, here they are, like 1.5 games out of the wild card, which I find to be insane. And for Taiwo Walker, he has been able to do quite a bit of a better job this year than he did 8 seasons ago, and I will say he's doing for a bit of regression. He's got an ERA of a 4.17, but 5.08 field independent, 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, and he's only getting about 6.1 punch-outs per 9 as well. Has given up 4+ runs in each out of his last 4 starts too, so he's coming in a little bit of bad form. And then for Ryan Nelson, he's got a 3.34 ERA, and he's been able to keep things out in front of him, not committing a lot of mistakes. 2.5 walks, 0.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings, 3.34 ERA, 3.71 field independent. So very interesting circumstance here. I did set a total of an 8.8, so I'm going to be in on this total under. And with regards to the years and the Diamondbacks, I did make them the very slight underdog, so going to be going with the Phillies on the money line. 909, 910 on the card. The Giants are on the road against the LA Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw is on the bump for the Dodgers, and Robbie Ray has hit Pepper Ray to another start. For the Giants, they are underdogs of plus 134 to a plus 137, and you're going to be getting anywhere between minus 158 to minus 164 on the Dodgers. 8.5 is the total. Over is anywhere between minus 110 to a minus 105. Under is between minus 110 to a minus 115, and for Mr. Clayton Kershaw, I did set he and the Dodgers on the money line at a minus 167. I was willing to take a plus 120 or better with the run line, and right now I'm finding that at a plus 146. When this podcast comes out, I don't think it'll be quite a plus 146, but certainly going to be willing to take a shot on that run line, even if it goes down to like a plus 130 or so, as Clayton Kershaw has been just keeping things out in front of him. Strikeout numbers are way down. He's getting just a hair under 6 strikeouts per 9 innings. That is by far a career low for him, but he's doing a good job of not beating himself. The walks per 9 rate is right around 2.6, 0.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings, so he's inducing soft contacts. That's been able to keep him very much in games. He has given up 3+ runs in 3 of his last 5 starts, including giving up a 4 spot in his last start against these very San Francisco Giants. But you also have a guy on the flip side who has been having his ups and downs recently as well, and Robbie Ray. And if you recall the last series that the Giants and the Dodgers played out in San Francisco last week, that was a very high-scoring series, as well as Ray in his last start against the Dodgers gave up 5 runs in 4 innings at home, and overall for the season, 3.50 ERA. His strikeout numbers are way down to 9.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's been able to do a nice job of reducing on the deep ball, giving up 1 home run per 9 innings, but now faces off against a Dodgers lineup that leads the big leagues in terms of runs per game at home. They've been able to generate right around about 5.6 runs per contest when they've been at home, and Max Muncy has provided about a full run out per game more for this offense when he's been in the lineup versus when he's been out of it. Shohei Ohtani is up to 51 bombs. He's been able to supply about a 395 on base. You've got Andy Paz giving you 25 home runs. He's hitting about a 280. Freddie Freeman continues to give you a 365 on base, and Mookie Betts had a really rough start to the season. Ever since the All-Star break, he has been able to play much better, though. For Mookie Betts, post All-Star break, about a 350 on base, 8 home runs, and 200 at bats, so do like to see that. Teoscar Hernandez has seen a dip with his average ever since the break, but 10 home runs and 180 at bats ever since the All-Star break. Michael Conforto has had just a rough season in general, hitting right around about a 200, but Alex Call has been a nice pickup, and it is a Dodgers bullpen that is getting healthier. Tanner Scott, along with Michael Kopech, both coming back along Kirby Yates. That helps out. I will say for Yates, along with Tanner Scott, both of these guys have supplied above a 3.50 ERA this season, but you've had the likes of Jack Dreyer, Alex Vesia be able to pick up the slack. They're both giving you a sub-3 ERA, and for the Giants, this continues to be one of the better bullpens in all baseball, very much hurt by the series that they had last week, as now you've got the likes of a Matt Gage and Jose Buto in a Giants uniform supplying above a 3.50 ERA. Randy Rodriguez being on the injured list has very much been hurting this team, but the team is still number 3 in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA. Joey Lucchesi has been able to give you a sub-3.25 ERA to be able to help out as well, and for the San Francisco Giants, this lineup has been a little bit topsy-turvy, but they have been much better in terms of their run production when they've been away from home, mainly because San Francisco is a very much pitcher-friendly ballpark, to say the least. With the Giants, they are supplying right in the neighborhood about 4.6 runs per game away from home, top 12 mark in all baseball, compared to 4.1 runs per game at home. And Rafael Devers finally starting to live up to his billing. He's been able to supply in a Giants uniform right around about a 345 on base, 17 plus home runs in less than 80 games. So like to see that. You've got Eloy Ramos, who's been able to hammer 17 home runs. His on-base percentage is in the neighborhood of about a 330. Jung-Ho Lee has been much more stable here in the second half of the season as well. Matt Chapman doesn't hit for the world's greatest average, as he's only hitting in that neighborhood about a 240, but over a 345 on base. He's been able to supply over 20 home runs. William Adames does need to pick it up with his 230 average, but has been able to supply the team with 28 home runs, so he's been able to do a pretty rock-solid job there, and really a big catalyst for this team in the second half of the season has been Dominic Smith, who's been able to hit since the All-Star break for a 317, so do love to see that. And for the San Francisco Giants, I do think that they're going to be able to get to Kershaw a little bit. Do think that the Dodgers, though, then get to Ray, and I do think that they get to a bullpen that has been dealing with some injuries. So at a 8.5 or less, I'm in on the over, and with regards to the LA Dodgers, plus 120 or better, I'm going to be taking a shot on that run line. 9-11, 9-12 on the card. The Yankees are on the road against the Baltimore Orioles. Trevor Rogers goes for Baltimore. Will Warren is on the bump for the Yankees. Yankees do find themselves as a favorite of anywhere between minus 115 to a minus 120. Even money to minus 102 is that number on Baltimore with a total of 9. The under is minus 115 to minus 120. Over is between even to minus 105, and I'm going to be willing to take a shot here on the under. I did set my total at an 8.9. I do think that Trevor Rogers is starting to get due for a little bit of regression, as maintaining a sub-2 ERA with not necessarily being the world's greatest strikeout pitcher is a little bit difficult, but I mean, what a story Trevor Rogers has been. He was really struggling at AAA Norfolk to begin the season. He gets called up to the big leagues, and ever since then, he's posted up a 143 ERA across his 16 starts All-Stars, has really been able to do so by limiting hard contact. 3 home runs allowed in 102 thirds innings. Just absolutely incredible what we've been seeing out of him, and he's been able to really reduce on the self-inflicted wounds as well, with 2.1 walks per 9 innings. So his ability to be able to do soft contact, that's going to be put to the test, because you do have to face off against a New York Yankees lineup that has, on any given night, perhaps all 9 guys in the lineup who can hit 20-plus home runs for the overall season. Giancarlo Stanton has been able to give you a home run every about 10 or so at bats. He's been able to supply about a 345 on base. Cody Bellinger has been hitting for a 275 with 30 bombs. Aaron Judge, obviously judge, jury, and executioner, 450 on base, 48 home runs. Trent Grisham has hit over 16 home runs since the All-Star break. He's up to a 350 on base. Jazz Chisholm has been able to move the line with 29 home runs as well, but the Yankees' real downfall this season has been the bullpen. Ever since the beginning of the month of July, they are second worst in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. You just have had so many guys trip and fall over themselves. Yuri De Los Santos and Tim Hill have actually been 2 of your better options along David Bednar. I'll give you a sub-350 ERA, but Fernando Cruz, since he's come off the injury list, Luke Weaver, since he's come off the injury list, have both struggled. They're now both above a 375 ERA. You've had likes of a Mark Leiter Jr., Devin Williams, Camilo Duvall in a Yankees uniform, and a Yankees uniform only for Duvall puts up above a 5 ERA. And for the Orioles, they do have some very similar bullpen woes, as there have just been so many guys that have come in, like Yaramil Hidalgo, Yanir Cano, Grant Wolfram, that are posting up an ERA well above a 4, so they have really had their struggles whenever Corbin Martin was out there. He was having his struggles as well, so not great to say the least. And for the Baltimore Orioles, this has been an offense that has been significantly better when they've been at home rather than when they've been away from home. For the Orioles, they're actually second worst in the American League in terms of run creation away from home, and with about 3.95 runs per game. That shoots up to about 4.6 runs per game at home. Dealing with quite a few injuries, though. Adley Rushman is on the injured list along Jordan Westberg, but you've had a pair of guys in Jackson Holliday, Gunnar Henderson combined for 33 home runs. With Henderson, he's giving you about a 350 on base. Holliday's been able to about a 250, and then you've had the guys that have, for lack of a better term, struggled. Dylan Carlson, Kobe Mayo, both with less than a 285 on base, both hitting for less than a 215. Jeremiah Jackson has been very good since they called him up. He's made about a 290. Dylan Beavers above a 400 on base, but even though Samuel Basallo's had some big moments for the Orioles, he's hitting below the Beddoes line of 200, so you got a lot of guys that are having their ups and downs there, and that should be all about a guy in Will Warren, who, if you look at the advanced numbers, he should be doing for a little bit of positivity. Our good friend and Mr. Will Warren is posting up an ERA that is well above a 4, and the main reason why has been the walks, as he has been giving up about 3.8 walks per 9 innings coming off that start against the Boston Red Sox, where he gave up, I believe it was a 5 spot in the first inning, but he is getting 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, reducing on hard contact, giving up 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, so he's got a 4.44 ERA, but a 3.97 fielding a pennant. Do you think that he's doing for a little bit of positivity here with the Yankees? If we could get this down to a minus 113, which when we get the timelines out here in Vegas, we should be able to. I'll be looking at their money line, and I'm going to be in on the under semi-total at 80.9. 913, 914 on the card. The Rays play host the Boston Red Sox. Garrett Crochet is on the bump for the Sox. Drew Rasmussen goes for Tampa Bay. 7.5 is the total. The under is minus 120. The over is even. And with the Boston Red Sox here between minus 130 to minus 130 favorites, plus 108 to plus 118. That number on Tampa Bay, and with the Red Sox, made them a money line favorite of a minus 142. For Garrett Crochet, he has just gone out there and he has been rolling all season long. Mr. Crochet, 263 ERA with a fielding independent of a 286, 1.3 strikeouts to 2 walks per 9 innings. Has given up the 1 home run per 9 innings, but all in all, it's just been as steady as they come. And for Garrett Crochet, he's been able to do some really good work when he has been on the road as well. For Crochet, in his road starts this season, a 229 ERA, giving up about 0.6 home runs per 9 innings. On the other end, Rasmussen has not been like some sort of strikeout artist or anything like that. He's been only supplying the team with about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 2.1 walks, 1.1 home runs per 9 innings. 274 ERA compared to a 380 fielding independent, but doing a nice job of making sure he's not self-inflicting any wounds, and he's backed up by a lineup that is in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of run creation, with Junior Caminero still perhaps in line for a 50 home run season, 44 bombs. He doesn't walk a lot, but he's been able to about a 260 for this unit. Additionally, you got Brandon Lowe getting loud. He's been able to give you about a 260 with 29 bombs. Yandy Diaz, very silently, 360 on base, 25 home runs. Since the beginning of the month of June, he's actually been one of the best hitters in the American League. They've had injuries to the likes of Jonathan Aranda, so the shortstop spot and the catcher spot have been big, giant albatrosses for this team, but Jake Magnum's hitting a 290 with 26 home bases. Chandler Simpson, 300 average, 42 stolen bases. And for the Rays, they are a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA, really ever since the beginning of the month of July, as you've had so many guys be able to step up in this bullpen. Manuel Rodriguez dealing with that injury has been a little bit rough, but they found a nice guy in Eric Orze, Eric Clevenger, Pete Fairbanks. These guys have been able to give you a sub 3.30 ERA. You've had the mix and match guys like Brian Baker be a little bit rough. He and Edwin Uceta posting up right around about a 3.80 ERA. And for the Red Sox, one of their main strengths has been their bullpen. They have been a top 5 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Aroldis Chapman has obviously been really the best closer in all of baseball with like 13 strikeouts per 9 innings, posting up a 1.23 ERA. But I mean, it's more than just him. Garrett Whitlock, Chris Murphy, Justin Wilson, Steven Matz. These guys all give you a sub 3.35 ERA. Brandon Bernardino has dealt with a little bit of injury, but I mean, he's been rock solid when he's been out there as well. So I do think that for the Boston Red Sox, they find a way to be able to get to Drew Rasmussen and get the job done. With it being out there in Tampa Bay, I think that this total is a bit too low. So my total at a 7.7, as I do think that for the Red Sox, even though you don't necessarily have a super duper main masher. Trevor Story has been able to give you 24 home runs this far this season, but it's just a team that does a nice job as a collective of moving the line, finding a way to be able to get on base. As you've got a lot of guys hitting in that neighborhood, if we're going to call it about a 253 to a 264, with Nathaniel Lowe hitting at 264 ever since he got into a Red Sox uniform. But guys have been with the team all season long, like Carlos Cervantes, Jaron Duran. These guys have been in that neighborhood. Nick Sogard as well, and then you've been able to get good production out of Alex Bregman with about a 356 on base. Not aiming for as much power as he has in the past, but you've had Rob Refsnyder also be able to supply the team with about a 275. So do you think that the Red Sox find a way to get the job done, like the over, and the Red Sox up to a minus 141 on the money line. 915, 916 on the card is the Blue Jays. They they're facing off against the Kansas City Royals, as Matt Scherzer goes for the Royals and Michael Lorenzen is on the bump for the Royals. The Royals do find themselves as a underdog of anywhere between plus 108 to a plus 115, minus 126 to minus 137 is that number on Toronto. 9 is the total, the over and the under, anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115, and set the Blue Jays at a minus 140. So I'm going to be willing to lay that money line with Max Scherzer. He has given up a little bit more of the deep ball than what you'd like, but he's still getting strikeouts and he's still not really allowing a lot of walks. For Scherzer, 1.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but 8.5 strikeouts to 2.5 walks per 9 innings, 431 ERA, 479 fielding dependent, and he has given up 4+ runs in 3 out of his last 4 starts. That's a little bit of an issue, but this is good news for him. He gets to face off against the Kansas City Royals team that is dead last in the big leagues in terms of run creation at home, about 3.55 runs per game at home, albeit they have been much better here in the second half of the season rather than the first half of the season, picking up some like a Mikey Yastrzemski, who's already got 4 leadoff home runs since joining the Kansas City Royals, have turned their fortunes around a little bit, and Salvador Perez has been able to give you quite a bit of power. He's been able to give you about 29 home runs. He's not hitting for a lot of average though. And then Vinny Pasquantino, he's been able to do a nice job supplying the team with 30 home runs, over 100 RBI. Do like what he's bringing to the table. Bobby Witt Jr., he's been able to supply the team with about a 350 on base. He's been giving you 22 home runs. You've been able to have Miguel Garcia move the line about a 350 on base. And ever since the All-Star break, Michael Massey has been a little bit better for the team as well. But he, Nick Lofton, Jack Aguillon, a lot of guys who are hitting below a 230 in this lineup, and it's been very hit or miss in terms of the overall power, as the team has said last, in terms of home runs at a per at-bat basis at home thus far this season. But for the Royals, this has been a top 10 unit in terms of bullpen ERA. Lucas Erceg, along with Carlos Estevez, have done a nice job supplying a sub-3 ERA. Taylor Clark has been a little bit up and down. He's giving you about a 350 or so ERA, and Steven Cruz has been off and on injured, so that's been hurting this team a little bit. But you do take a look at the flip side for the Toronto Blue Jays, and this has been a bullpen that has been in the bottom 10 in the big leagues in terms of ERA ever since the trade deadline, as Seranthony Dominguez has been rocking an ERA above a 350, and you just have had big-time issues with the guys that have been reliable all season long. Braden Fisher, Brandon Little, throw in there as well. Louis Varland, who came on over at the trade deadline as well. These have been guys that ever since the All-Star break, they've been posting up an ERA above a 4, and it's just been a season to forget for Jeff Hoffman as well. What has been really carrying this team, though, is the fact that they've been averaging about 5.7 runs per game ever since the All-Star break. That has been in the top 2 in the American League. George Springer has been a big reason why. 29 home runs, nearly 390 on base. Absolutely love what he's bringing to the table. And then Flagler Jr., his on-base percentage is just a tick below 400. You'd expect a little bit more than 23 home runs, but he's sitting for 300. Bo Bichette is sitting at 313, and he's been able to give you 18 home runs. You've had Addison Barcia supply 20 bombs, and Dalton Varsho home run every about 12 or so at-bats, not hitting for a lot of average, but moving the line. And even Davis Schneider, when he's been out there, 11 home runs, about 170 at-bats, 360 on base. So these guys have really been able to mash together. And for Max Scherzer, even though he does have his warts, I just look at Michael Lorenzen, and he's about as mid of a pitcher as it gets, to use a term that the kids like. As for Michael Lorenzen, he's not doing anything truly awful, but 8 strikeouts to 2.5 walks per 9 innings. The 1.5 home runs per 9 innings is a little bit rough, but at the same time, a 4.91 ERA, a 4.58 fielding dependent, and he actually came in long relief in a game against the Seattle Mariners a few days ago as well. So that's very interesting, as he had went 3 innings in his previous start as well. So you have to wonder if that's going to throw him off kilter a little bit and give the Toronto Blue Jays just a little bit more ammo to be able to utilize a good offense. I did sub by total 9.3, like the over and the Blue Jays on the money line. 917, 918 on the card. The Seattle Mariners, at the road they're facing off against the Houston Astros. Hunter Brown goes for Houston. Brian Wu says woohoo to another start. 7 to 7.5 is the total. 7.5 has juice to the under of -120. Over is even on the 7. The over is -120. The under is even with Houston. They're about -112 to -116 favorites. Anywhere between -102 to a -108 is the number on Seattle. And I'm going to be willing to take a shot here on the Houston Astros. I did set them on the money line at a -142. Hunter Brown had a few struggles in late June, early July, but this guy's been rock solid all season long. A 2.27 ERA. He has given up a combined now 5 earned runs across his last 5 starts. 308 fielding dependent with 10 strikeouts, 0.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings. So I feel like he's very trustworthy in this spot. Now, the Astros already have some injuries with the likes of Bennett Sosa, Josh Hader on the injury list, but you've got the Bryants, Brian King, Brian Abreu, and Steven Okert give you a sub-350 ERA. And some of these long guys, like AJ Blueblood, they had to use in a little bit of a long roll a few days ago. He's been pretty solid for them. And then with Brian Wu, 3.02 ERA, 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, is giving up 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, but he comes in great form as well. 2 runs or fewer allowed in 4 of his last 5 starts, 3 runs or fewer in all 5 of those starts. But that said, for Mr. Wu, he's had his issues on the road with a 3.58 ERA. On the road, he's given up about 1.38 home runs per 9 innings, and he is backed up by a lineup that, with the Seattle Mariners, they have obviously been much better when they've been away from home rather than at home with their run creation. That's just mainly because Seattle is such a pitcher-friendly ballpark. That's not even funny with the Seattle Mariners team. They've been averaging, when they've been away from home, right around about 5.1 runs per contest. That is number 3 in all baseball in terms of road run creation, as you've had Big Dumper in Cal Raleigh give you 56 home runs. Just absolutely ridiculous what we've seen out of him thus far this season. And Eugenio Suarez, 44 plus home runs as well. But Suarez in a Seattle Mariners uniform and a Mariners uniform only has been hitting below the Bedell's line of 200. With Raleigh, he's a little better than nothing, even though he has been able to give you about a 360 on base. Julio Rodriguez has been able to supply a lot of power along with Randy Arozarena. 27 bombs for Arozarena with about a 340 on base. Rodriguez only about a 320 on base, but a 270 average compared to Arozarena's 240, and he's been able to give you 30 home runs as well. Oriol Polanco has been rock solid as well, 330 on base, 24 home runs. So it is a fearsome lineup with Tom Canzone, who's hitting at 300, going for a 3 home run game a few days ago. And for the Seattle Mariners, the top end of the bullpen has been solid. When you get into the likes of Taylor Cicero and company, you've got some bad long relievers. Carlos Vargas has not been great as well, but likes of Matt Brash, Edward Bizardo, Gabe Spire, Andres Munoz have all been able to give you a sub 275 ERA as well. So very interesting circumstance here. I did set my total at a 7.6 here at the 7.5. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the over. And for the Astros, I do like them on the money line. Going to trust in Brown up to a -141. 919, 920 on the card. It is the Cleveland Guardians on the road against the Minnesota Twins. Pablo Lopez goes for the Twins, and Parker Misick is on the bump for the Guardians. And the Guardians are underdogs of anywhere between +102 to a +105. -120 to -125. Then around Minnesota, 7.5 to 8 is the total. On the 8, under is -115. The over is -105. And with the 7.5, the over is -120. The under is even. And for Lopez and the Twins, I did set their money line at a -119. Right now I'm finding -120. When the dime lines come out, I should be able to get a -118 or better, so that will eventually put me on the Twins on the money line. For Lopez, he just came off the injury list. This is start number 3 for him, and since coming off the injury list, he's been rock solid. He has given up 4 runs across his 2 starts for a total of 11 innings, only 2 of which were earned. He was hurt by some errors in one of his starts, but and that said, overall for the season, the swing and miss stuff has been a little bit down with 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 2.3 walks, 0.8 home runs per 9 innings, 264 ERA. He has been solid, and for Misick, ever since he has come on up to the big league level, I remember he was a very good college pitcher over at Florida State. He's been showing some of that pedigree. A sub-2 ERA, he's made 5 starts, he has given up 6 runs, he's getting only about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, was a much better swing and miss guy, both in college and at the minor league level, but he's out hurting himself. 1.2 walks allowed per 9 innings, only 1 home run allowed across these 6 starts, and he's backed up by a Cleveland Guardians bullpen that has been in the top 7 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. Obviously, they've been been doing it without Emmanuel Clase for quite a while, but you got the likes of Kobe Aller, Jacob Junis, Eric Zabrowski, who have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Kate Smith and Hunter Gaddis have had their ups and downs, but they've been performing quite well recently. What has not been has been the Guardians lineup, bottom 4 team in the big leagues in terms of run creation, as Jose Ramirez has been very good, 29 home runs, 360 on base. Stephen Kwan hitting about a 270 at the top, but then you've got the cavalcade of different guys at the bottom that are just not providing for this team. Daniel Sheeman, CJ Kafis, Will Wilson, Nolan Jones, John Kenzie Noel, David Fry, Bo Naylor, owing a 219 or lower, not getting a lot of home run power out of really any of these guys. You do have Kyle Manzaro, though, up to 26 home runs. Flip side for the Minnesota Twins, they've got a lot of guys that have been able to take you deep, but they haven't had necessarily a lot of average to go with it. Byron Buxton has been your main constant in this lineup, as he's up to 31 home runs at a 333 on base. Trevor Lawrence, 17 home runs, hitting about a 250, has been rock solid as well, and you've had a few other guys be able to go deep for you, like Matt Wallner, 22 home runs, but hitting for just a 202. Cody Clemens, he had a 3 home run game about a week or two ago, 19 bombs, but 218 average, 289 on base. You need a little bit more there. You've had a little bit of production as well with regards to bringing up one of your young guys in Luke Cashiel. He's been able to give you about a 390 on base, but these other young guys like in Austin Martin, whenever he's been out there, he's been rock solid. He's been able to give you about a 290 average, but it's been a mixed bag. Like James Outman, Deshaun Kurtzky, Mickey Gasper, these are guys hitting below a 215. You just have not been able to get anything out of Ryan Fitzgerald as well, so that's been a little bit of an issue. It's been a lost season for Royce Lewis, and the Twins are a bottom 8 team in terms of bullpen area. Traded away all their good pieces at the trade deadline, so now they're stuck with the likes of Michael Tonkin, Cody Funderburg, Justin Topa, Pearson Ewell, Thomas Hatch, all providing above a 380 ERA in this bullpen, and I do think that for the Cleveland Guardians, they are going to be able to get to Pablo Lopez just a little bit, but at the same time, too, I do think that Lopez goes out there, gives you a relatively good start, and I do think that they get the job done, and what I think is going to be a relatively low-scoring game, some I told at 7.7, I would personally rather have the 8 under rather than a 7.5 over, so do like that under, and I do like the Twins behind Lopez at a minus 118 or better on the money line. 921, 922 on the card. The Pirates play OC Athletics. Luis Severino is on the bump for the A's, and Mitch Keller goes for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a minus 112 to a minus 115 favorite, minus 104 to minus 105. Then around the Athletics with a total of 8.5. The over is minus 120, and the under is even. And with the Athletics, I did set them on the money line at a minus 108, so I do think that the wrong team is favored, and I'm going to be willing to back them. For Luis Severino, it certainly has been a season of ups and downs for him, and he is only getting about 6.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, so they need to see that uptick a little bit, but I mean a 4.82 ERA, but a 4.26 fielding dependent because he hasn't given up too much of the deep ball, 1 home run allowed per 9 innings, and he has been leaps and bounds better when he's been away from home rather than at home. A 6.51 ERA at home, that's shockingly bad, and that's been a hallmark of many of the Sacramento A's pitchers thus far this season. At home, he's given up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings. On the road, he's given up closer to about 0.75 home runs per 9 innings. That ERA comes down to a 3.11. Now, Mitch Keller, throughout his career, if you look ever since his rookie year, he does have about a point better with his ERA when he's at home rather than away from home, and he's been able to keep the ball in the yard this year. He's given up only 1 home run per 9 innings, but has a 4.13 ERA with only 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, at 2.4 walks per 9 as well. He's had some ups and downs this season, though. In his last 4 starts, he has given up 3 earned runs or fewer in each of them, as he had a spot against the Boston Red Sox where he gave up 4 unearned runs, was just hurt by his defense in that one, but I mean, that's part of the Pittsburgh Pirates. They do play some sloppy defense, and it's a Pirates unit that is currently dead second last in the big leagues in terms of both home runs on a per at-bat basis and also dead last in terms of runs per game. They're averaging about 3.6 runs per contest. Only 3 guys on the roster with only 10 home runs. O'Neill, Cruz, Brian Reynolds, Andrew McCutcheon, 10 plus home runs out of these guys. The only 3 guys there. Tommy Pham is up to 9 home runs. He's been able to about 250, but for Cruz, he is a part of just a big giant band of guys for this team that are in below at 210 as he, Emmanuel Valdez, Henry Davis, Andy Rodriguez, Nick Yorkie, Cam Devaney, all these guys running below a 210. Alexander Canarios now hitting about a 221, so yippee there, but that said, it's been a rough lineup, and for the Athletics, ever since the All-Star break, they've been a top 8 team with regards to run production, as Nick Kurtz has been amazing. 32 home runs, about a 390 on base, and then got a trio of other guys with at least 24 home runs. Shea Langoliers, Shea has banged for 30 bombs. Tyler Soderstrom, 24 home runs, hitting for about a 350 on base. Brent Rooker, 30 bombs. He's been able to give about a 340 on base as well, and then you've had the bottom of the lineup be a little bit of a letdown for this team. Denzel Clark hitting the injured list has not been great, but the likes of Max Schulman, JJ Bleday, the wrong Max Muncy, these guys have just not necessarily been amazing. Willie McIver at the catcher spot hitting $176. That has been less than savory. And what else has been this Athletics bullpen. They're in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. You do have Michael Kelly along Sean Newcomb, who've done a nice job. They've been able to supply you with an ERA below a 3.25. But that said, whenever you've had Ben Bowden out there, as he's just gotten injured / GFA, Tyler Ferguson, Grant Holman, as well as Obito, they've utilized both as a starter and a long guy. Scott McGough, you've got a lot of guys that are posting up an ERA well above a 4. And then on the other end for the Pirates, you've got two guys that have been very reliable in this bullpen, Dennis Santana along with Isaac Maxson, who've been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Dory Moretta has not necessarily been the world's worst, but Colin Holderman not living up to his name. He, Genesis Cabrera, Evan Sisk are all providing a ERA above a 3.75, actually closer to a 4.75. So circumstance where I do think that for the Athletics, they do find a way to get to Keller and get the job done. Did semi-total at an 8.2. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the under with the way that Severino pitches on the road and the Athletics on the money line. 923 and 924 on the card. The Detroit Tigers play host the Atlanta Braves. Bryce Elder hopes an outlook elderly for the Braves. Charlie Morton goes for Detroit. Detroit is between a minus 119 to a minus 121 favorite. Even money to plus 102 is that number on Atlanta. 9 is the total. The under is minus 115. The over is minus 105. And I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the over. I did semi-total at 9.3. Bryce Elder has been much better recently. 2 runs of fear allowed in 4 out of his last 5 starts, but it has still overall been a very brutal season for him. As for our good friend and Mr. Elder, he has been rocking a 5.56 ERA. He's only given up about 1.2 to 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, but he is posting up over 3 walks per 9 innings, not getting a lot of strikeouts. And Charlie Morton, well, he's been able to get over 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 1.4 home runs and 4.5 walks per 9 innings. That has been less than tremendous as well. Both of these teams have had shaky bullpens to say the least, but it does feel like for the Detroit Tigers, they're starting to just find their guys, for lack of a better term. They've had to DFA a few guys. There have been just a few washouts in general, and they're still holding on to Tommy Kahnle. He's been posting up north of a 4 ERA. Tyler Holden has been having a few issues as well, but you do have the likes of Troy Melton as a long guy, Will Vest, Bailey Horn being able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Kyle Finnegan was really good before he hit the injury list. And on the other end for the Atlanta Braves, Raciel Iglesias has actually been a little bit better for them recently. He and the Dodd father, Dylan Dodd, hovering right around about a 3.50 ERA, but we've seen Dylan Lee have his issues recently. Pierce Johnson has been the main constant. He's been able to give you a sub-2.75 ERA, so he's been able to do a good job. Desmond Hernandez, though, he's starting to toilet pull a little bit. And for the Braves, this has been a upper half of the big leagues team with regards to run creation ever since the All-Star break. Matt Olson leading the way with 28 home runs at a 370 on base is rock solid. Marcell Ozuna gives you a 357 on base, but hitting for just a 233 average. You do need better on base out of Michael Harris. 242 average with 17 home runs doesn't sound too bad, but 261 on base, that's a little bit brutal. The shortstop spot has just been an issue for them in general. Nacho Alvarez, along with Nick Allen, not much power there. And then the outfield has been a little bit mix and match when Ronald Acuna Jr. has been not out there, but Acuna, 17 home runs, 400 on base. He's been able to do a nice job there. And then for the Detroit Tigers, this team is in the top 5 in the big leagues in terms of scoring runs at home, about 5.1 runs per contest. And you just have a lot of steady in this lineup. A lot of guys that are hammering out between 11 and 13 home runs, are all hitting between about a 254 and really everyone other than Dylan Dingler, about a 261. Dingler's up to a 275, but Zach McKinstry, Wencio Perez, Cole Keith, Avi Baez are all doing a solid job there. And then Spencer Torkelson, 335 on base, 29 home runs. Riley Green, 34 bombs. He's been able to about a 260 as well. So I do think that for the Detroit Tigers, they're going to be able to find a way to get to Elder and get the job done. I personally set them at a minus 166 on the money line. I don't know why. The Braves are only listed right around even money, so going to take a shot on the Tigers on the money line, and I do like this over. 925, 926 on the card. The Padres are on the road against the Chicago White Sox. Davis Martin is on the bump for the Southsiders, and Dylan Cease goes for the Padres, and the Padres are a sizable favorite of between minus 165 to a minus 172, plus 138 to a plus 144 is that number on the White Sox. It is a total over and under between minus 105 to a minus 115, and that run line price of the Padres right around even money to minus 105, and I'm going to be willing to take it. I was willing to go up to a minus 114 on that run line. Dylan Cease, you have to feel like is going to be a little bit juiced up going up against his former team in the Chicago White Sox. And for Dylan Cease, if you look at the overall ERA, it has just been absolutely atrocious from this far this season. A 4.59 ERA, continuing to get strikeouts as he's getting 11.5 strikeouts per 9 innings at 1.1 home runs per 9 innings. It's up from his career averages, but it's not necessarily too bad. Has been giving up 3.5 walks per 9 innings, but fielding event is a full point better than the ERA. So it's just been a very curious case for for him, and it does look like he's starting to get online. He has given up a combined 4 earned runs over the course of his last 3 starts, and for Dylan Cease, he has had his road struggles with a 5.54 ERA away from home, and for the Chicago White Sox, this has been a remarkably better offense when they've been at home rather than away from home. They're only averaging about 3.9 runs per game away from home. Still only about 4 runs per game at home, but you look at what they've done ever since the All-Star break, they've actually been a upper half of the big league team in terms of run creation, with Lennon Sosa being a main catalyst for this, as he's been supplying the team with about a 260 average. He and Andrew Benintendi are both up to 20 home runs this season. You've had Colson Montgomery supply 18 bombs, really not a lot of average at a 220. And for the White Sox, they do a nice job of not striking out. They don't necessarily do the world's greatest job in terms of drawing walks. Chase Madrith has been able to give 345 on base, and then you've got Mike Tauchman above a 350 on base, but Edgar Quiero, Kyle Teal at the catcher spot. These two guys have been able to about a 280, so they've been rock solid there. Joshua Palacios, when they had him out there, was not great. They had to cut ties with Josh Rojas. They've had a lot of veterans that they gave a shot to, and it just didn't work out. Brooks Baldwin has been all over the place, and for Luis Robert, he's out with quite a few injuries this season, but even when he's been out there, he's been less than amazing, as is this bullpen. As for the bullpen of the White Sox, you've got 2 guys that are pretty reliable. Steven Wilson and Mike Facil give you a sub-320 ERA, but Facil is really being used as a long guy for like 3+ innings, so he's not available every day. And then you have the likes of Cam Bouger, Brandon Iser, Tyler Gilbert, a whole bunch of guys posting up above a 4 ERA. Jordan Leisure down to about a 3.64, but you still had your issues there. And for the Padres, this continues to be the number 1 team in the big leagues with regards to their bullpen ERA. Robert Suarez could be a little bit up and down, and Jeremiah Estrada has had a little bit of a rough go of it recently, but Audrey Morejon, David Morgan, Jason Adam, these have been guys who have been able to give you a sub-285 ERA. Even Waldy Peralta has been rock solid, so do think that the Padres go out there, get the job done against a guy in Davis Martin that is just pitching to a lot of contact in general. And for Davis Martin, even though he's been a guy that has not throughout his career given up a ton of walks, that hard contact I think is really going to nip him in the bud. A 4.01 ERA, but a 4.83 fielding dependent, 1.4 home runs at 3.1 walks per 9 innings, while getting only about 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Very concerning numbers there. 3 earned runs or fewer given up in each of his last 5 starts. I think that he's doing for some regression, so did set my total at 9.2. I do like the Padres on the run line, and I do like this total over 927, 928 on the card. The Miami Marlins are on the road against the Walker Texas Rangers. Tyler Bali goes for Texas. Jansen Junk hopes to not live up to his name for Miami. Miami does find themselves between plus 124 to a plus 135 underdog, between minus 146 to a minus 164 is that number on Miami. 8 to 8.5 is the total. On the 8, over is minus 115, under is minus 105. On the 8.5, under is minus 115, over is minus 105. And for Miami, I did set them as an underdog of a plus 168. Now, Tyler Mully is going to be making his first start in quite some time, and he does face off against a Miami Marlins team that is actually in the top 5 of the big leagues in terms of run creation away from home. They are coming down from elevation, though, over at Coors, and typically their first game coming down from elevation, the just sight line and things like that, it's a little bit off for these guys, so that does play a little bit of a role for Mully. This is going to be his first start since the middle of June, and prior to going on the injured list, a rock solid 234 ERA and was really limiting the damage with 0.5 home runs per 9 innings. The 6.3 strikeouts per 9 innings was not necessarily so amazing, but was doing a good job of being able to keep things out in front of him, and he does face off against a Miami Marlins team that you really don't have a lot of mashers, including having Kyle Sowers currently being on the injured list. That really hurts this team, but for the Miami Marlins, you do have guys who are able to move the line, like Jacob Marcy, about a 392 on base. They've been dealing with Xavier Edwards being in and out of the lineup. He's been dealing with ailment, but you've got Roberto Hernandez hitting at 270. Troy Johnson, ever since he's come up to the big league level, he's been hitting about a 280. Quite a few guys like Otto Lopez, Joey Weimer, Liam Hicks, Javier Sonja, hitting between about a 243 to a 250 as well. But really, other than Augustin Ramirez with his 20 home runs, nobody out there in the lineup that's giving you north of 15 home runs. And for the Miami Marlins, this has been a pretty suspect bullpen, as well as you've got Tyler Phillips, Kate Gibson, Calvin Fauché, Ronnie Enriquez give you a sub 350 ERA, but likes of Valentin Beloso, George Soriano have really been acting up for this team. And on the other end, you've got a Rangers team that has been in the top 10 in terms of bullpen ERAs. You've got Robert Garcia giving you about a sub 325 ERA. It's been a little bit up and down with Chris Martin, but Cole Winn have been able to give you a sub 325 ERA as well. With the Rangers, you've had a few ups and downs with having Hobie Milner starting to poop the bed for this team, but Sean Armstrong continues to give you a sub 325 ERA. And for the Texas Rangers, they dealt with a lot of ailments with regards to their lineup, but ever since they picked up Rowdy Tellez, he's been able to hit for north of 250 for this lineup. It's really been on the shoulders of Wyatt Langford to be able to carry this team, as he's been able to supply them with over 20 home runs, over a 335 on base. Having Corey Seager on the injured list has really been hurting this team, and I know that they've been dealing with a few other ailments as well, but getting back Jake Berger after he's been banged up for much of the year has been solid for them, as Jake Berger, ever since the All-Star break, he has really been able to emerge, as he was really struggling towards the beginning part of the season, but for our good friend and Mr. Berger, ever since the All-Star break, he has been one of the main catalysts for the team as he's been able to supply 5 home runs and in a batting average above 300 ever since coming off the injury list. Kyle Higashioka, since the beginning of the month of July, has been able to above a 250 as well, and that's been big for the Rangers. They were going into the month of July bottom 5 offense in all baseball. Since then, they've been averaging over 4.8 runs per game, with the Josh Young and Josh Smith being a big reason why both of these guys hitting between about a 250 to 255 for the campaign. And I do think that they're going to pile on a guy in Jansen Junk that, well, he has very much been living up to his name recently. As for Junk, he's doing a good job of not having self-inflicted wounds. He's not giving up a lot of hard contact, and he's not giving up walks. 0.7 home runs, 1.2 walks a lot per 9 innings, 4.48 ERA because he's only getting 6.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. And for Junk, he has given up at least 3 runs in now each out of his last 6 starts. And I do think that the Rangers jump up on him here. I did set my total at an 8.7, so here at the 8, especially if you got an 8.5, still like it there, but especially that 8, I do like the over. And with the Texas Rangers, I'm in on their money line, set them at a minus 168, and wrap things up with 929, 930 on the card. The Rockies are playing against the LA Angels. Mitch Ferris is expected to be the starter for the Angels, but right now he is not listed, so that's a little bit TBD going against Bradley Blaylock of the Rockies, and that's why we've got a game that's completely off the board. If you do indeed get Ferris, I set the Angels at a minus 164 on the money line, so willing to go up to a minus 163 there. Personally, I'd be looking run line at a minus 115 or better. Plus 165 or better looking at the Rockies, and set a total to wear an 11.5 or less. I'm in on the over 12 or higher to the under. This won't change too much if you don't get Mitch Ferris, unless if you get Caden Dono, who's just absolutely terrible. He's supposed to pitch on Saturday, though, so I wouldn't think that you'd be getting him, but I mean, it is an Angels team that's probably going to be going with Ferris, and then you're probably going to be going with a lot of mix and match guys from there, so it does make things a little bit difficult to be able to gauge because this is a Angels bullpen that's been very rough, to say the least. Kenley Jansen, Brock and Rolberg have been able to give you a sub 350 ERA, but Reed Detmers, Ryan Zefrion, Sam Bachman, Jose Fermin, you've got so many guys that are posting up an ERA that's well above a 375. That's not even funny. If you do indeed get Ferris, since coming up from the minor league level, it's not been bad. In 3 starts, a 480 ERA, he has been giving up in his 15 innings 3 home runs, so he's giving up about a home run per start, and on that course, you're going to be giving up some hard contact because elevation, that really does hurt you. And for the Colorado Rockies, they've been a much better offense when they've been at home rather than away from home. That should come as a shock to absolutely nobody whatsoever. Likes of Tyler Freeman, Mickey Moniak, Jordan Beck hitting above a 275 at home, with Moniak double-figure amount of homers at home. Hunter Goodman, home and road, he's been solid, hitting at 280 with 30 home runs overall this season, but Ezekiel Tovar hitting above a 300 at home as well. These guys have been able to do a rock-solid job, but also with the Rockies, they are second worst in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. You've got Victor Vodnik and Jimmy Herget, who have been able to supply a sub 350 ERA, but then just a cavalcade of different guys that just have not been able to get the job done for you. Ryan Rolson, Anel Shavili, Nick Anderson, Seth Halverson, who's been dealing with injury over the last few weeks. They're all posting up above a 495 ERA, and for Bradley Blaylock, he has made 12 total appearances thus far this season. In 50 innings, he has given up 50 earned runs. Not great, to say the least. He's getting 4 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's giving up over 2 home runs per 9 innings. This guy's nickname should be Hickory because he's getting absolutely smoked, and he has to go up against an LA Angels lineup that is in the top 5 of the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. Now, they're also a bottom 5 team in terms of on-base percentage, and you've got a guy in Logan O'Hoppe who represents everything that this team is about. For O'Hoppe, he's been able to supply 19 home runs, but he's also got a 258 on base. Taylor Ward, 33 home runs, about a 314 on base, 225 average. Joe Adell, less than a 300 on base, but 36 home runs. Zach Neto has actually been able to move the line. He's hitting for about a 260. He's been able to supply 26 home runs. They've dealt with the injury to Ore Soler, so they've been trotting out their guys like Bryson Cesudo, Oswaldo Peraza. You've had a lot of mix and match guys that just have not been great. Luis Renifo has been a little bit in and out as well, and whenever he's been out there, hasn't been too effective for the team. Even Mike Trout is not hitting for a lot of average. 227 batting average, albeit a 358 on base and 21 home runs, but that said, I do think that for the Angels, they should be a sizable favorite with just how bad Bradley Blaylock has been. If it's Ferris or, frankly, anyone not named Caden Donna, minus 163 or better looking at the Angels money line, but would probably be looking at a minus 115 or better on the run line. We need at least plus 165 to take a shot on the Rockies, and then 11.5 or less in on the over, 12 or higher the under, and that'll wrap things up for the Friday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. Big thanks to William Boor of Action Network for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, You have one of two ways we'll fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters the name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, and I'm with you guys every single day on this podcast throughout the regular season into the postseason, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.